What up? What up? What up? How y'all doing? All right. Today is October 24th, 2022, and this is How Billy Sees It. And I just wanted to get on. I think we're gonna get a nice stretch going here every Monday, man. I'm feeling good. I'm gonna get on here and try to be consistent and talk to y'all, man, and work with some thoughts and maybe create some stuff, and just get out here and have some fun, y'all. So, what up? Hope everybody's well. Been a wild week. Everything's always moving. I just turned 40 a couple of weeks back. I think before the last video. And it's been a good time being 40. It's been awesome. It's very much like being 39. Not much, but things are moving, yo. The last video I did on this was a response to Matt Walsh. What's good, Captain Buggy? Was a response to Matt Walsh, who was responding to Jon Stewart on the question of gender. So that was the last video, and that wasn't my most watched video. I've had other videos that are seen more, but definitely the most commented, for sure. Easily the most commented. So I figured what I wanted to do here, yo, is to walk through some of those comments, man, because I actually want to kind of develop a capacity to kind of deal with things, to jump into convos, you know what I mean? And some of these people here on these comments really think they are telling me something, and I think we should have a conversation about that. So let me respond to these, and I think it might be fun to do it. Hold on a second. Let me get some lights going. Okay, there we go. Let me switch that over to that. Boom. Okay. All right. And then we're switching screens to this guy. All right. Cool. So this is the video. Responding to Matt Walsh, Jon Stewart on gender, best bits. It was a longer video. It was actually like an hour or something plus, but then I cut it down to 16 minutes. So that's what this was, and I think it's really good. I think you should check it out. All right. First comment. Jenny, LOL, Matt Walsh is not wrong about gender, full stop. Okay. All right, not much I can say there. Not really useful, but, science as a whole disagrees with you, full stop. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, somebody is out here replying to that. The knowledge, your lack of understanding of Matt's position is disturbing. Okay. I'd like to know what Matt's position is then. You could write that down. You could help me understand here, but you chose not to. So, somehow this useless comment gets 35 upvotes. I think we should try to upvote useful comments. I think that would be a good move generally. Okay. Let me start with that. Let's move on. Damo, it's obvious what left and right is in politics. Doesn't take that much to figure it out, to find out. It's obvious what left and right is in politics. All right, that was a typo. Thank you. This is why we need basic testing for voter ID. That's right. So this is one of those where this person thinks I don't know what left and right political theories and terms are. And the reason they think that is because over here I make fun of Matt Walsh for using these terms loosely and lazily and emptily. And I think then what I should do is let me play that clip so people can kind of get a sense what it is I said.
On minors. So they caved, they surrendered for perhaps all gender transition procedures on minors. So they caved, they surrendered for perhaps the first time in recent memory, anyway, a left-wing institution caved to pressure from the right. Very rarely does that happen.
What is he talking about? Here's the first thing, straight up. Everything from Daily Wire, they use language like right and left, slippery, useless language like this. They don't ever attempt to explain or ascertain what those words mean to them. So the first time a right institution won something, what are you talking about?
The left has hailed this episode as the ultimate takedown of the conservative conspiracy theory that women don't have penises.
the left has, what is he talking about here? Who's the left says this? Who is that? What is the body or the person? What certifying place is the left that has said that this is the takedown, whatever? Oh, he said it. Oh, it's the left.
John breaks down the gender binary and gender spectrum in this week's episode.
We are in a new dawn of gender.
Okay. So what happened there? So let me pause that. Let me come back to this full screen joint. Yeah. I know what left and right is. Okay. I appreciate that. This person here says, yeah, this is why we need basic voter testing. Yo, I know what left and right in the political arena means. I understand its political origins in French parliamentary politics and history. I understand the movement through history in different countries. I understand how it manifests and how it's talked about in present day American politics. I understand the way that Karl Marx talked about left and right. What I'm saying is that when Matt Walsh talks about left and right, Matt Walsh is not describing anything in any clarity, and he's doing so intentionally. Let me flip this back to this. Pay attention that Matt Walsh says left, and his friends at the Daily Wire do the same thing. When Ben Shapiro says left, they're engaging in a team building exercise. It is a cheap and unspecific way to garner support for something, or to demonize and to have a villain. And so I want you to check and see, is there any Daily Wire video where they don't say the word left? The left. And if they don't describe themselves as the right, one of the either of those, but more often it's going to be the left, because that's how you get clicks. That's how you get people buzzed up and angry. Let me show you about the left. But what are they talking about when they say that? I understand that there is a political left which is generally concerned with, improving the betterment of the worst off in society, and is interested and feels that the government is a useful tool for that end. Okay, that's one way of looking at the left. The right generally has is presupposed to be interested in small government and doesn't, and through that desire to keep government small, quote unquote, there's all kinds of things they justify and they allow to fester. All kinds of problematic features of society that need to be addressed and handled and supported, and people need to be organized in order to achieve certain things. They let go under the guise of some small government right-wing fiasco. It's a fiasco. It's a label. This is a preoccupation with labels. This goes back to what I'm saying. So when I say, why does he say left and right? I want Matt to be specific. See, in certain instances, they would talk about the right. Who are we talking about? George W. Bush? Are we talking about Rush Limbaugh? Are we talking about Stalin? Who are we talking about? If you're talking about the left, are we talking about Karl Marx? Are we talking about Nancy Pelosi? Joe Biden? We're talking about the right. Are we talking about Caitlyn Jenner? Are we talking about a KKK member? Is it a right-wing hawk, like military person? If we're talking about the left, is it a socialist? Is it a left-wing a social economist who believes in Keynesian economics? Is it that West Virginia guy, whatever his name is? Manchin? So there's so much complexity in every conversation and everything that we're looking at. There's a problem when Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, these people who are supposed to be intellectually serious, intellectually meaningful, when they speak in these simple terms that don't give us that texture and that complexity. There was an article the other day I saw on Facebook from the Daily Wire where apparently Lizzo got canceled. Lizzo got canceled. You know what their nonsense title said? The left strikes again. The left cancels Lizzo. Okay? First off, I consider myself a member of the left. I consider myself the left. I didn't cancel Lizzo. In fact, what actually happened was that Lizzo had a word that had an ableist connotation. There was a small group of a small community of people who were disabled and wanted to, wanted her to consider that word meant something to them that was different to her, and they wanted to alert her to that. And when she heard that invitation for a conversation with them, she realized it had no stakes to her. It was whatever. It wasn't even like super instrumental. I think she either bleeped the word or changed it. I can't remember which one, but she it was a group of people that collaborated and came to an understanding. It was as simple as that, right? But they flip it as the left comes back again. The left cancels Lizzo. And the point of that cheap, unspecific approach is because there's nothing there. Do you see that? There was nothing there. There was nothing there. They contrived and created a tension and a conflict and a story that then they were able to monetize. And you people who are leaving me these ridiculous comments are so susceptible, so subtly to that, you don't even notice it. And every time he says the left, you're on edge just a bit more. You're aware of this threat, this thing. But he doesn't have to be specific. In fact, he can make it up. And so that's why I'm asking him to be specific and use better language than left and right, and to make sense actually. So that we can understand what's going on. And that's my challenge, and that's what I'm saying in that video. Back to the comments. Yeah, that's right. So this is why we need basic voter ID. Come on, okay. You sound like you really enjoy imagining yourself in lady shoes. Yes, love it. Love it. You got to do your homework, bud. If you don't know what these words mean, you shouldn't have this YouTube channel. See, this is the same thing. So that's why I wanted to explain that to some detail just now. Like, nah, I know what the words mean. Thanks. Interesting take. This is my baby. Interesting take on a complicated and evolving topic. Thanks for grappling with it. Of course, girl. Gender isn't complicated at all. It says Ted Bundy was the ultimate Chad. Okay. She says, sounds like you don't find it complicated, but gender is as complicated as nature, humans, and other concepts humans create. Fantastic, obviously. Hence why so many people from so many different specialties have grappled with it for so long. Incorrect. These guys are they're just so confident. They're just so confident. Especially when Daily Wire can map it out for you, when they can connect the dots for you and use words like left and conjure up things. They help map it out, and then you come out super confident. Ted Bundy was the ultimate Chad. Okay. It says, well, we'll just have to agree then. Agree to disagree. Exactly, the fact that some men feel feminine doesn't make them women and vice versa. It's way more complicated than that. Gender and humans are more complicated than just wearing a woman or a man costume. Definitions, language, and customs evolve as we come up with better ways to reflect our society, culture, and experience of life. That's right. I think you are replying to somebody who maybe they deleted their journal or something. I don't know what happened there. But sounds like you were taking their words, and it sounds like it's exactly. They're saying that, yeah. You know, what I think is funny, so this comment here says, the idea of feeling feminine. I don't know what that means, you know? I don't really know what it means to feel like, that's not what I meant. The word, I think it was, I've seen the description about feeling, right? And this brings me back to the argument I was making, because I think oftentimes it's a question of linguistics, you know? When someone says they feel like a woman or feel like a man, you know, of course, that's not what does that mean? What are you describing? You're not describing anything. You're describing, you know, and But if you have a limited sets of language to speak with, and you know that your feeling is uncertain, you know that your internal workings are being challenged by an external set of structures and norms, and blah, blah, you might say that you feel something else, but the point is that these labels, none of them have any purchase anyway. They are attempts to grasp at something. And that's the appropriate approach to think about it. It's not to require that someone act a specific way, unless that's what you're saying. Then we need to talk about why you think certain people should act certain ways. We can have a conversation about that then. But the truth is that you look at people and you see that their expression can be multivaried and strange and also normal and whatever, and it can shift. And so the whole concept of feeling and language and definitions is a very strange thing. And society and mirroring and culture and the way that things work out, it's very strange. But you have to be interested in that. You have to be meaningfully interested in this. Let's call it a social matrix. Be meaningfully aware that it exists. I mean, this is what the Wachowski brothers at the time were describing in that movie that they wrote, in that awesome movie. Sorry, brother, but your argument would have been valid years ago when the gender conversation was confined in the space of linguistics. I don't know what you're talking about now. But please feel free to reply. Let me know what you mean here. Obviously, it's more complicated. Linguistics, it's a social thing. It's not just a linguistics thing. I'm saying that the confusion that's happening is driven by linguistics, particularly when you have disingenuous voices in the conversation, like a Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire, who have a goal at the end of the day. Their goal is to maintain something, and so we're failing at this opportunity to understand each other because of a linguistics difference, right? And I've explained it. The point is that when you have to be careful when you move back and forth between words that connote biology, like male and female, and the words that imply or connote the social sphere, which are man and woman. And I want to say, even if you disagree with me, my man, Javier Orozco, I'm going to try to, maybe I pronounce that right. Even if you disagree with those definitions, I will please begin to understand that the people on the other side, in that experience, that is the way that they're dealing with it. Those are the definitions that they're dealing with. So when they say something like a man can give birth, they are attempting, and some people are doing this to try to they're attempting to deal with the sense that if the person can give birth, then we'll say that they are, in the female category, that this female person can give birth, but that they are accessing a social sphere. They're looking to access a social sphere of the assumptions of manhood. You feel me? They want to move and walk and look and talk and be treated like a man. That's their internal working, and they want to be, because it's they're asking for that reciprocal approach, right? But in order to understand that, you've got to actually access and be honest about the fact that we do this thing. We got to be honest and be able to access the fact that we do this thing where we look at someone and we fill in gaps and we see things from our own preconceived stories and ideas. We have to, in order to access that space to have a conversation about it, we have to sort of acknowledge a truth. And if you're not careful, as Matt is, he's, I think, certainly not careful. He's intentionally manipulative on this to use language in such a way as to not allow for that. And again, these are words, these are labels, these are definitions. You can disagree with those labels and definitions, but once you know that the other side is dealing with those definitions and those words in that way, maybe you see the claims differently. Go look at an old video and an old like something and see it and go, huh, that's what they were thinking that. And then also look at Matt Walsh videos and see how there's a flip back and forth. It's like, oh, males can't, women. It's like, he's not helping. And so that you check that out, okay? Yadok, that's an interesting take. Thank you, bro. Thanks for considering that. More listening, less talking. Keep the ratio more balanced between the two. Just some advice. What are you saying? I don't know what this means. I know what it means. See, I got to be more specific because people, I say I don't know what stuff means, and then people think I don't know what stuff means. More listening, less talking. Keep the ratio. Okay, I'm not trying to do. I don't know what advice this is for. I don't know what your aims are particularly. I have a point of view and I'm presenting it, and so that's what I'm doing. And this was edited from a much longer thing, by the way, and you can see that on my profile. Please read more. No disrespect. Think about diversity in your reading material. Good luck. Thanks, Eric. It's another one of these guys, John. Thanks for your help, my man. John with the, I think that's face palm joint. Okay, burner, one who burns dictionaries and textbooks and believe in a news-forced ideology at all costs. Yep, knew it. He said we have to make definitions. Jesus, dude, you couldn't make through half the video without curtailing the agenda. The redefinition. Anyway, I'm out. This is a waste of time. Billy, you don't speak for the past people, especially women. You have just as much of an idea of how it was for women back in the day as the next man. Is there something special about you that gives you a superior understanding? I mean, Matt has a wife, daughter. He has other children. He has a mother. He works alongside women. He's surrounded by a healthy amount of women, so he has daily experience with diversity of women. Yes, he is a man. Is there something wrong with that? He's a man among real women. So what about you? You say he should empathize or lack empathy. I've given you his potential referential for empathy towards women, many, but what about you? Okay, let's start with this one. Yeah. The redefinition, what are you saying? What is your concern? Yes, I don't have any agenda other than what I'm describing to you. And if you look through my work, my art, the stuff I create, you may see a common thread, you know? It's the centrality of the person. I don't make people conform to words. I don't think it makes sense to make people conform to words and definitions and external definitions. So, but this isn't really about me. I'm not doing anything. I'm actually not trying to redefine something for people. I am here in this video. I believe that I am describing, and I might have a way of describing this that's different, man, because I am not a member of the community. And so, you know, there's different norms and language that comes up that maybe I'm not familiar with, and you know, maybe there's a something that comes from that. I don't know, but the fact is that there are people in this world and in this experience, and those people are the starting points for our understanding of what this is. And I think that's the key thing. Unfortunately, it seems obvious almost, but it becomes unobvious because we live in a space of so much regressive stagnation of thought, stagnation of concepts, I think, you know. But let me get back to this. It's there are people in this world. They exist. They've always existed. For whom being a man doesn't look or behave or exactly have the traits that we assign to manhood. And there are people who've struggled with this. You know, I think it's funny actually to have Ben Shapiro be this like champion of manhood. I think that's weird. That has to be a marketing team or something. But the point is to say the category of man and those general assumptions we have about how men behave, those are obviously cultural. Those are obviously derived by sort of a group think and ideology in a certain space. Man means something different in different cultures. The age when you become a man. Don't Jews have a 13-year-old thing for young boys? You know what I mean? The general secular American population, I think's like 18 typically, right? So at 14, 15 years old, are you a man? Are you a man? Okay, so Matt Walsh will say yes, all right? Because if you have a penis, let's say. But why would he come in? Why does he come into biology there? What about biology at the lower levels in terms of chemistry? I'm sorry, in terms of the gamete size and in terms of like the chromosomal composition. So where are you defining biology? Where are you defining maleness and I'm sorry, not maleness, manhood, womanhood? Those are all created and constructed. And so for this part, when you talk about, is there something special about you that gives you a superior understanding? I mean, Matt has a wife, he has a mother. I don't have a superior understanding. I'm not trying to claim to have a superior understanding. I want you to understand that I want you to have better conversations. I want you to understand that when you look at a non-binary person, you don't understand the ways that they are approaching this conversation. Matt Walsh is giving you a false approach. It seems that there's some political move happening, that they're trying to, take over society and the Democrats and this and that and the left and the left and the left. What is happening, I'm trying to, because I have had conversations with people all over the gender spectrum. I'm saying that there's an arena of conversation that is completely being unhad in the mainstream discourse, particularly on the right wing, traditional gender discourse. You don't deal with the fact that this isn't about male people attempting to be female. Matt makes it feel silly. He's like, this is silly. You can't be male and female. I'm telling you that it's not about that. It's not about people imaginarily trying to be something they aren't. It's about people trying to be something they are. And what they are is more complex than the typical assumptions. It's unfortunate that when some of these comments, when I see on Facebook, when Matt Walsh posts about his movie, the comments when people say that like a man in a dress must be mentally ill. Why would a person in a fabric be mentally ill? How does a fabric have any attachment to biology or anything like that? What does it mean? I grew up taught that I was supposed to have an aversion to the color pink, that I shouldn't wear it, that color is a feminine color. What does that mean? Right? Some of this stuff now you look back and you laugh at, but you're in that same camp. That's what's going on. It's people who have taken this, a lot of the assumptions that we have, the root assumptions when we look at a person and we assess them, you don't even realize how quickly your brain does it and how you assess the normality of the situation. If things put you at ease, and when things don't put you at ease, they pick you up and get you excited. But that's not related to anything. That this is, especially when it relates to things like fashion, which Matt and Ben Shapiro are so concerned with. So the last thing I'll say too, I don't want to like play around too much because I know that Matt is spending a lot of time speaking specifically to childhood surgeries and gender affirming care. I want to notice that as this conversation continues, and as I said in the last video, Matt's position is going to get more and more shrunk, and he's going to be seen, the position that trans people are mentally ill, what I just said, or that non-binary people are crazy and need to kind of act better, shit like this, that position is going to look terrible very soon, right? Because we are just better and better understanding how things work and how people are. But the question of surgeries is an interesting one. I'm actually, I got to start. First of all, I've had this conversation with Sheba and we've had some stuff, but I have an aversion to surgeries. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to give you the background on this. For me, like my biases. The idea that there is something to fix gives me a concern, because I truly believe that at the end of the day there is there's a problem at the social level where people are not granted access to be as they are, and that is a driving motivation that causes so many problems, from depression in different forms, but also it manifests in this space that we're talking about. And so I always feel, I have this background feeling that if we can sort of work to drop some of these really difficult and festering and lingering social divisions and these ways that we assess each other, that people will feel more attuned with themselves, however they present, and that these things will sort of have less and less of value. The need to have surgery, the need to be augmented in some way, to be improved in some way, I want to say here, like, note how these kinds of surgeries occur in every direction, though. How different is it from what we're talking about when a man wants to get like chest surgery, wants to get pec implants, or wants to get calf implants, or what I heard before, I heard about there's like a surgery to get taller, get some inches. You can break your legs or something, what they do. I don't know the full thing, and I don't want to actually, like, I don't know exactly how it works, but apparently you can augment your height as well. I think that's all, like, it all comes from a very similar place. I think it's all one thing. I think it's all, and so people are responding in different ways to the very ways that the very ways that we categorize and require each other to operate in a social space. And the way that we penalize people for not being precisely that. The way that, men, we got to admit, man, we want to be taller. Everybody wants to be taller. All the men want to be taller, Women want their bodies to look a certain way. And we have all this social pressure that incentivizes that one way or the other. And I think I have this sense that I have a bias in a way, or I have to recognize that, where I don't really like the fact that these industries can thrive kind of upsets me sometimes. I think about, like, even the vaginoplasties and things like this. I'm describing like a vagina being retooled to look prettier, quote unquote, to be smaller or whatever. That's wild. you know, that there would be some perfection out there, some concept of it, and that, you know, people should be striving to it and people would pay to achieve it. And that's not necessarily a trans surgery. That's something that's existed for some time. And I remember reading about it like years ago, maybe a decade ago. But, you know, when I think about that, I go, this is where it gets funny, because like, who am I, you know, to come in for, especially if we're talking about adults, who am I to have an opinion on an adult who can afford to engage in a procedure that they have assessed with their best free will and best intelligence and best advice from, you know, whatever they thinks that they believe will make their lives better on the other end. I'm not the guy, right? So then the last thing for me is the child thing. And here's where, I mean, I definitely, and I recognize I have an aversion to something like a surgery that has the potential to be permanent on someone who is young. And I recognize when we have to be more specific, because some of these things are not permanent. Some of these things are permanent. Some of these things are, when we talk about gender affirming care, we're talking about a whole suite of practices that exist completely outside of surgeries that include not just very reversible things like puberty blockers, but also psychology and blah, blah, blah. There's lots of stuff. Gender affirming care includes something just as simple as accepting and using correct pronouns and treating the person as they wish to be treated. It's as simple as that. You know, you can engage in gender affirming care with a friend by simply acknowledging and accepting that. See, it's as simple as that. And such the breadth of things that fall into that category of gender affirming care is that wide and that vast and that deep and beautiful. And there's so many nuances in there. So it's a real shame to see the way that language is being used here again. Gender affirming care gets to be truncated and collapsed into perhaps its most invasive like manifestation, perhaps its most extreme manifestation, right? Is to think of someone going under the knife, right? So all that is manipulative to me, you know? And that's what I think is wrong about what Matt is doing. Okay. I think that there is a conversation to be had about parents and adulthood, age of consent, all these things that we have in place for other things in life. I think it's reasonable to allow that. I think if I can agree with, everyone can agree that the non-binary person is not mentally ill, that they are a human and that they have the right to their own self-determination. Everything from manner of dress to pronoun usage, things like this, like everyone else, and that they're not beholden to anything like this. If we can agree to that, then I think there's a lot of promise to have a honest convo about minors, you know? Yeah. Marco, have you realized that proponents of gender ideology... Oh, no, let me come on here. Have you realized that proponents of gender ideology you support have only met fierce resistance because there is a requirement for others to agree and conform? Let me just start right here before I'm going to read this whole thing and answer it. But the proponents of gender ideology, one of the big issues, I think, is that cats think that they don't have a gender ideology. Cats think that gender ideology is something that just was started a couple years ago. It just came out of nowhere. Gender ideology. And that's one of the crazy things about being privileged, yo, is to sit in a space where the things that you take for absolute granted they become the norm for you, but you don't realize how they affect other people unless you do some self-work and actually are engaged with broader having broader conversations meaningfully. So my question to this person, so gender ideology, where do I want to go in? How do I get into this? Let's get into, what is it? Those kids who do, what are those women, those little girls with the JonBenet Ramsey? Let's get into that. She's a child beauty queen. Okay? So, let's see if we can just pull her up. Okay, so I would imagine, the problem is that I would imagine that this person doesn't believe that what we're looking at here is imbued with gender ideology. There's nothing gendered here in this person's view, even though there's a child with makeup on, heels. We go back to the stage stuff. It's like, this is what drives this. This has ideology as well, my friend. Understand, you know, but it's an ideology that you consider normal. But there is no real reason for this child to be dressed up in this incredible gown. And I know, or this dress, and shout to them, they can wear whatever they want to, by the way, but at least come to an honest space about what's going on. Be clear, pull out of your ego and understand the ways that this stuff is playing out and what society is. I mean, these guys, I don't know if they have like bikini competitions, so it's all it's sexual, it's weird, they're kids. This is gender too, my friend. You know? So, where were we? Have you realized that proponents of gender ideology, gender ideology you support, have only met fierce resistance because there is a requirement for others to agree and conform to their thought and speech? Resistance which only deepens when this is to be imposed on children. This is something, imposition and requirements and conformity are things to be averse to, and I don't think, you know, what you're pointing to is a political manifestation, and I think you have something to, you're pointing at something, and I don't disagree with you. I think we need to be careful about requirements to say things. For instance, we have to be mindful about how we you know, draw up our social requirements of each other. But again, I know that I'm talking to someone who doesn't realize, proponents of gender ideology, who doesn't realize that he is himself a part of a rigid and narrow gender ideology. You have norms and expectations and assumptions about what is normal. If we go back to those kids and we showed a beauty queen thing and it was boys, you would be very upset. But I want you to know that in either case, adults put clothes on them kids. Okay? I don't know anyone that opposes gender ideology that is against other adults making decisions. I don't know, Marco. I don't know if that's true, Marco. Consider that a lot of people do this. Consider that Matt Walsh and other parts of his magazine, his news thing, the Daily Wire, they are concerned with this. They come up with video content to dissuade people, you know, men from wearing feminine clothing and all kinds of stuff. Okay, adult men making decisions about their own lives and living freely. It is the socially constructed system that you seem to prefer that requires that other adults be compelled to walk, talk, and act in a certain way. No, I don't see it that way. I don't think that non-binary people are asking other people to walk, talk, and act in any certain way. They're asking for their right to be able to do so. Obviously, this is just a complete inversion of reality, which is interesting. I think that we are comparing between sort of the status quo situation, which is one of which has a more rigid approach to it. It's not as rigid as it's always been. Real talk. It's not as rigid as it's always been. Here I am with black fingernail polish. Actually, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, lots of people wear black fingernail polish. Like, it's not even it's not as rigid as it used to be, but it exists. And I think part of what makes it strange for people too is, like I said, first off, you're oriented completely in a way that doesn't allow you to see that this too is a gender balance. You believe that you're in some neutral, normal state, and you aren't. So that stops you from seeing things first. And then you have people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro who are using this to get clicks and get views and make money. They're making the conversation worse. And that's why I think it's important to talk about this. That's why I think it's important to talk about this and to say, yo, there's actually another way of talking about this. In fact, it's the way of talking about it that the people going through it, the people that you consider your enemy, instead of listening to Matt Walsh, you can actually listen to them and you'll see that, oh snap, they're not talking about those things. They have some of your concerns. There's actually a conversation that is worth having, that could be had once you get from a place of disrespectful, nonsense about mental illness. Once you pull yourself out from the gendered, heteronormative, privileges that don't allow you to see that your norms aren't better. They just are what they are. Then you can have a conversation and once you see too, like again, Matt Walsh is this preoccupation with a sliver of something we call gender affirming care, which is a sliver of something else. It's like altogether it's just a disingenuous conversation, and I think that's fucked up. But I want to wrap real quick. Where we at 55 minutes on this. I want to wrap real quick by saying that, yeah, I talked about why I talk about this. And last time I talked about solidarity, really, I tried to say that, even if we're not, trans or non-binary, or even if we are binary conforming people, like the binary gender norms make sense for us and fit for us, and so we don't feel this compulsion against it, but that we can still have empathy and solidarity with people, right? So that's what I kind of focused on last time. I really want to end with the fact, like another argument, just as strong, perhaps stronger, is, it's all one thing, okay? And I think it's interesting because this is a space to open up a conversation about the broader social arrangements that we have and the ways that our presumptions of each other and our assumptions and the boxes that we create and the separations, how they play out in our social spaces. The trans community is experiencing, the non-binary community is experiencing just one form of this. But if you're a black man in America from Brooklyn, New York, I've been detained on 2 occasions. One of the kind of stereotypes, one of the jokes that a lot of black men talk about is, the tightening of the purse in an elevator or the crossing of the street. When we dig down, we can see, okay, so this is, we call it, this is related to trans people, this is related to black people, this is related to black men in particular. Black women have a specific thing as well, a bunch of assumptions about them that they endure and carry as they engage with other people. White women have their version, it evolves, right? Karen is a thing now. I know some white women whose name, they're like, fuck. it's like, if we can actually engage with a conversation about what's actually happening here, we can see how access to this space and a conversation around it and a personal growth and a growth together around this awareness, I think helps understand things. Things that we used to talk about in specific individual separate ways. This is a racist event, this is a sexist event, this is a homophobic event, this is a misogynist event. They show up in different ways, but I think it's all one thing. The things I just mentioned there, like things show up badly, they even show up in positive ways. A lot of assumptions that we have about each other are related to the idea that our perceptions are limited by our own prior assumptions. So it's helpful to be able to observe your perceptions, pull out, and then ask about the assumptions on a higher order to be able to see what's occurring and be able to chart a different understanding, because if again, the conversation needs to be improved this way, because how terrible to have people thinking, in fact, that male people are attempting to be female. How damaging is that to our understanding? Of course male people aren't attempting to be female. Of course female people are not attempting to be male. But that some people might think that that's the case, that's what's going on. No. People are trying to people are people. They're having a human experience, and they want love, and they want to be understood, and their experience is valid. I mean, it's a very different approach. I know we have, a lot of our worldviews are rested on so many problematic, wrong, prior assumptions, and really put us in a weird place. But this one, I think, is something to look at and sort of excavate and to chart a better understanding for each other. And I think the mirror see, I don't even have we don't have language around it so much. I know there is some people are talking, but this phenomena is more interesting than boys wear blue. This phenomena is more interesting and more amazing than women are from Venus. It's more than that. So I've taken some time there to answer those questions or those comments. Yeah, that's all I got. And cool. All right. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.